Hey, what is going on, everybody? It's your man Apex, and welcome to another Marvel Avengers video. Now guys, before we get into it, I do want to let you know that I stream every day on Facebook, fb.com/Apex Agents, just like the channel. It's the same exact name on Facebook. So I definitely invite you guys over there to check out a live stream, ask any of these questions when I'm live. I'll be more than happy to help you or answer any questions that I can. Let's go ahead and get into the Alright, so here my melee rating is at 2124, range 749, defense rating 1410, and my heroic is at 1062. For this build, I'm going to be running the lightweight invulnerability nanites. Lightweight invulnerability, you have an 8.7% chance that light combo finishers grant an invulnerability buff. The Gamma Infuser power attacks deal gamma damage, emitting a localized burst of gamma radiation on impact. And then the Dauntless Breaker, which is an 11.9% increased damage from sprint and evade attacks. So that's as you're moving around and you're hitting enemies, you actually are doing a lot more damage, and while you're doing that, you're giving them gamma radiation damage, and you have a chance of becoming invulnerable. This is where this build gets a lot of its survivability from. Next, we have the Adapt Gravitation Explosion Enhancer. This is the Adapt Gravitation Explosion, which gives us 27% chance hitting the enemy with a ranged critical attack triggers an anti-gravity field that causes nearby enemies to float in the air. The Synapse Booster gives small debris attacks deal gamma damage, and projectiles are infused with excessive gamma radiation. And then the Mighty Impulse, and that is a 13.7% increased stun damage from power attacks, which fuses really good with this build, and I'll show you just a little bit later on how. This is one of the pieces that I have that gives me the Jarvis barrier. It's called the World Breaker Composite. It's a legendary piece, 5-star rating. This is a reflexive Jarvis barrier, and this is a 17.5% chance when parrying an enemy attack to activate a Jarvis barrier. The barrier protects against damage for 20% of maximum willpower. So essentially, you take whatever your willpower rating is, what your health is, and then you add 20% to that, and that's what it's going to give you. And then I have the Gamma Portente. I cannot say this word. This is the second time I did this video. I cannot say this word. Potentiator. Increase the amount of gamma damage done with any attack by 24%. That is huge. You're getting an extra 24% damage. That's big. Alright, and then I have the Hive Mind Stimulator. This is a counter extension. Increase the duration of the buffs applied to enemies after a successful parry for 3 seconds. The Cosmic Amplification. Increase the amount of willpower recovered from attacking cosmic afflicted enemies by 30%. And then again here I have a Lethal Jarvis barrier. This is a 7% chance when defeating enemies to activate a Jarvis barrier. The barrier protects against damage for 20% of maximum willpower. You guys, essentially with this build right here, you have the potential to have an active invulnerability buff, a Jarvis barrier, and then once that goes off, another Jarvis barrier can come right back up. You need to know, if you see that, if you see this Jarvis barrier and that invulnerability, you are literally invincible. The Hulk becomes unstoppable. There is literally nothing he can't do. You can stand right in front of him and bang it out, and I'm going to show you. I got a clip. I'm going to show you how it works. You will become invincible. When you get these barriers and that invulnerability up, it doesn't matter It does not matter. You can stand right in front of them, pick up an enemy, and just beat the brakes off of somebody. Now they asked me to make sure I showed this in my last video, so I went through that just a little bit quicker so that I could get into my primary, specialty, and mastery. Now under your primary, all of these are just completed, so there's nothing special about what happens in here. You just need to complete these. Now here's where my selections are. First, under my support heroic, you guys will know, if you don't know, I'll tell you, that down the middle of these right here, they're all generic, means there's no selections to be made. You just unlock these, okay? Right down the middle, just like this. Those are just unlocked. There's no need to make a special selection. To the left and to the right are the choices where you need to make a decision of what you want to do. So first, for my Bone Shaker Specialization 1, I elected to use Bone Shaker Regeneration, and that is defeat 5 enemies while Bone Shaker is active in order to restore all willpower. For my Bone Shaker Specialization 2, I elected to use Savage Heroism, and that is defeating enemies who are taunted by a Bone Shaker cause them to drop heroic orbs. So once they're taunted and you defeat them, you're going to be on the road to getting the Bone Shaker right back, to getting your heroics right back. And I'm going to show you how that can be timed right here. This is what's called the Stranglehold Specialization 1, and for this one I've elected to do, without reading all this, you run forward, you smash the ground and then attack, and then it throws gamma radiation everywhere. The entire area around you is irradiated with gamma radiation, and you'll see the ground turn green. Okay. For my Stranglehold Specialization 2, this is the Double Strangle, which grants an additional charge of the Stranglehold heroic ability. So essentially, if I run off in one direction and then I do the Stranglehold, I'm sorry, is this the Stranglehold? What is this called, man? Yeah, the Stranglehold. I'm tripping. So I run off in one direction, boom, I do it, and then I'll take off in another direction and I'll do it, boom, and then I'll move to a third direction and I'll do a thunderclap, and that whole area will be covered with gamma radiation, and every enemy in there is going to be taunted and they're going to be taking gamma radiation damage. I mean, it's like you'll be destroying the whole room. Okay, now for my Thunderclap Specialization 1, this is what I was just telling you about. This is called Ground Zero, and that is when you do the Thunderclap, it spreads gamma radiation everywhere, and this is what's going to give you that third part of that gamma radiation little triangle that I showed you. One assault this way, boom, one this way, boom, and then the third one is a thunderclap. Everything, gamma radiation is going to be everywhere, damaging everything. For my thunderclap heroic specialization, I use the recovery, and it says that there's a 50% chance defeating enemies with heroic thunderclap will cause them to drop heroic orbs. This right here is also going to pair with the previous one that I showed you, which means they're going to be dropping heroic orbs everywhere, which in turn is going to allow you to do it again. When you're using this, the double strangle, which is giving you the 2 attacks, that fuses perfectly with this, because as they're dying, they're dropping heroic orbs, and you're just constantly doing it over and over again. Under the mastery, for my I selected here for my grab specialization, this is a signature attack specialization. Attacks with held enemies are now protected from interruption from enemy attacks, however the damage will still be applied. That is what I need. What I do is I grab a couple enemies and I just start beating the brakes off of everybody with their co-workers. All right, and you can't be interrupted. That is the main thing that really is gonna be a signature part of this build that you'll see. your attacks will not be interrupted. When you're invulnerable, when you have the Jarvis barrier attack, and then when you also are grabbing enemies, your attacks cannot be interrupted. You can't be knocked back. You can't be knocked over. These are hard swings, increase damage and impact of held enemies by 20%. Okay. For my willpower recovery, I recover 35 points of willpower after performing a takedown. So as you're hitting the enemies, you're getting the willpower back from getting the orbs. Anytime you do a takedown, you're getting an additional 35 points of willpower after performing a takedown. For my hit this section, I have under my range attack, I have the wrecking ball, and that's large debris does not break apart when thrown, instead rolling on the ground, inflicting damage to every enemy hit by the attack. Multiple combatants can be pinned by the projectile when thrown. I use this mostly when I'm like in a hot situation and there's too many people around me. I'll pick up a large debris and I'll throw it, especially like if we're in like a vault or we're doing a hive and I get people kind of like in a narrow area or like a hallway. I'll throw it, pin them all into one area, run over there, do a heroic assault and thunderclap. Now I have range damage, increase range attacks by 15%. So going back to the build, the debris that I throw has gamma radiation on it, and then it's also going to do an additional 15% damage. Excavator, this just allows me to pick up debris a lot faster. So instead of going and then throwing it, he just reaps down and grabs it and throws it at him as fast as possible. You can make the choice to do some of these other ones, but I chose not to. Increase light and heavy attack damage by 33% when using small debris as melee weapons. That I just, you know, that didn't work for how I play. Increase the durability and damage of large debris chunks by 33% when using the melee light and heavy attack. It didn't work for me, so I just like this one here. Under the defense specialization right here, I have raging defense. Increase defensive strength by 15% while rage is active. Okay, so that is increasing the defense. Over here I chose the enhanced damage, increase damage by 15% while rage is active. So there my defense is increased by 15% and my damage is increased by 15%. Okay. Here, reduce the initial cost of triggering rage by 15%. It's called controlled rage. Here I selected chance boost, increase critical attack chance by 15% while overcharged. So that means you're going to be hitting dumb hard. So essentially, if you're hitting and you get an increased critical attack by 15% and you're holding an enemy and they're getting gamma damage, I mean, every hit that you do has these buffs on it, and there's gamma radiation everywhere, and you got a Jarvis barrier. Here we have damage boost, increase all damage by 20% while overcharged, and then finally I have the temper, reduce the rate at which overcharged energy drains, allowing you to stay overcharged longer. I think you guys are going to like this build. I'm going to show you some video. I do want to remind you again, you guys, that I stream every day on Facebook at fb.com/ApexAgents. Come by, ask some questions, man. Any questions about the build, or if you just want to hop on, run some missions, I got you. Come on through. Alright guys, let's go ahead and get into the video.
The facility is built in multiple floors, interconnected by lifts.
How many floors are we talking about?
Hard to determine, sir.
So not your run-of-the-mill Avian base.
No, ma'am. The power consumption alone suggests something a bit more sinister. Bypass local firewalls.
I gotta wake the beast. I got a whole lot of choppers, I ain't making peace. Blood on my hands, yeah. Froze up out the pavement. One thing that I know for sure is I'm an ape.